Okay, so today a friend of mine let me use his Autel BT506. This is the battery and electrical system tester. It'll do in-vehicle battery test, out-of-vehicle battery test, and it also has, so it's app-based, meaning that you can use this with your Android or Apple device. Now, if you have the Autel scan tool, like I do here, this is an MS906 series scan tool. The app is built into this scan tool, so if you have the battery test icon, then this will Bluetooth to the scan tool and work. If you don't have the scan tool, just download the app, either for your Android or Apple device, and everything you see here on this scan tool here in a minute, when we're doing the test of the battery and alternator and starter, will be exactly the same as what's going to be on your Android or Apple. So right here is, made for iPhone, made for Android devices. This is an Autel BT506, and it is a China-made tool. It's a pretty nice device for what it does, and what we're going to do is we're going to compare this to the Topdon ArtiBattery101, which is another battery tester, and I'm also going to go ahead and see how it compares to this Centek battery analyzer from Harbor Freight. Because theoretically, all three of these should give the same, or real close to the same information, if this style of battery tester, if it actually does accurate testing. Now, the old school battery testers had a carbon pile resistor, and you loaded the battery up, and I still depend on that for the majority of my battery testing. Until I do enough battery tests to where these convince me that they can reliably do as good of a job or better, I still rely on the old school carbon pile. But these are a lot more compact, state of the art. I believe they use inductance style battery testing. But anyway, enough with all that. We're going to open this up and let's see what we get here. So we got the test module itself. Now, this tester does, or can, doesn't have to, but it can connect to the computer. It is firmware upgradable. It is USB Type-C connector, which is definitely an advantage over the regular micro USB. The cabling is nice. It's pretty cool right now, the evening, and the cabling that they use, the wiring, they're not real brittle, and they're pretty pliable, which that's one of the first things I look at whenever I'm using any kind of an electronic tester. The clamps, I love them because they're nice and small on the end, as you can see, so you don't have a problem getting into, some batteries where you have to get connected to are fairly tight, and if you don't have the right type of alligator clips or clamps, it's hard to get a good connection. Now, this does have its own internal battery, which it does charge through the Type-C USB. Obviously, when you hook it up, it's going to power up that way also, but if you push and hold, you'll get your power. The blue light is meaning it's trying to communicate. Now, to pair this to this tool, if you don't get it paired up first, you're not going to have any luck. Just a real quick, you're going to go here to the VCI manager, and you're going to go to BAS Bluetooth. Now, it's already connected, but before it automatically connects, it's not even going to show up. So you're going to need to make sure that it's turned on and that it's got your blue light flashing, and then it should show up down here. Then you tap it, and then it connects up. And as long as it says connected, you're good to go. Also, if you wanted to update the firmware on it, you click right there, you plug this in. I believe you have, well, no, I guess it goes ahead and does it through Bluetooth. The manual says for the full firmware upgrade, there's like 4 different levels of firmware on this. It has to be connected with the cable. There is one level of update that you can do using Bluetooth. So just keep that in mind. If you want the full update, you're going to need to connect it up with the cable. So let's go back here. We're going to hit battery test, and we're just going to get on with this show. Now you got in-vehicle test, out-of-vehicle test. The vehicle we're going to be doing is a 2011 Tacoma. This is a Duralast. This battery is almost 3 years old. Appears to still be strong. We haven't had any problems with it. It is an AGM, and it's 710 cold cranking amps. So that's 2 main things you're going to need to know: AGM or flooded, you know, and the cranking amps, cold cranking amps. This is also, don't get the cold cranking amps and the cranking amps confused. This is 710 cold cranking amps, 885 cranking amps. You normally go by the cold cranking amps on most of these testers. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing connected up. And I'm going to press on here. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I mean, since I'm comparing 3 different testers, it might get kind of lengthy if I don't try to make this as quick as possible. Let me get a light so you guys can see this as much as possible. See how nice these clamps are? And that, like I say, they're skinny enough to where you'll be able to get those onto the smallest terminals without any problem. And of course, here's the unit there. So let me get you clamped up here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off. That way there's no glare whatsoever. So we got in-vehicle test. That's what I'm going to hit. There we go. We'll also do a out-of-vehicle test. Okay, so we got an and now you can fill all this out if you want to over here. This has got your license plate, your VIN, your make, model, but you don't have to, and you also don't have to you do not have to have the VCI connected to the car to do this test. And you can see up here in the upper right corner it says 12.6 volts. So it's already reporting through Bluetooth what the voltage is of the battery. So we're going to go ahead and hit AGM, cold cranking amps. Let me show you the different types. You got flooded, AGM, AGM spiral, EFB, and gel. We're going to use AGM. You got, under the different standards, you got CCA, cold cranking amps, SAE, CA, which is cranking amps. And you know what, we might even use both of these just to see if the readings the same or different. You got EN, EN2, IEC, DIN, JIS, MCA, GB, and BCI. So right now we're going to do cold cranking amps. I believe that was 710. And you can just tap that, and then you can type in right here what you've got. And that way you don't have to scroll. Okay, I'm going to hit next. And you got a little checklist here. Turn off electrical accessories, check. Turn off ignition, check. Close all vehicle doors, check. And then it highlights the start testing down here in the corner. Going to hit it, and it's going to go through and do its magic. Okay, it says good and recharge. So now I just got finished driving this vehicle about 10 to 15 minutes ago. State of health is 100%. State of charge 71%. Voltage 12.57 volts. Measured capacity is 668 cold cranking amps. The inputted capacity was 710 cold cranking amps, and it's about 69 degrees right now. So that's good. That's a good healthy battery. We're going to hit continue. Okay, got another check mark here. Ensure the ignition is off. It is. And then we're going to hit start testing. Waiting for vehicle to start. Okay, we had a voltage drop of 12.3 volts, down to 12.3 volts, and a starting time of 0.85 seconds. And I'm also going to get to the report right here on the next screen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Turn off electrical appliances such as headlamps and AC. Everything is off. We're going to hit continue. Keep the engine speed at 2,000 to 3,000 RPM and press continue. Now you'll notice that this is actually measuring the RPM. It's doing that by the frequency of the alternator. And I'm going to bring this into the car. And I'm going to show you what's nice about it. So, of course, the vehicle's running. We're probably about 800 RPM or so. Now I'm just going to start bringing the RPM up. I'm going to bring it up to about 2,000. You'll see that RPM gauge is rising. And it takes just a little while for it to catch up as it's doing its thing. Well, right now we're just a little above 2,000 on the tach of the vehicle. So there we have it. I'm going to hit continue. Release the accelerator. Okay, released. Hit continue. Turn on electrical. So I'm going to turn the AC compressor on. Going to turn the headlights on. Hit continue. Going to come back up with the RPM. 1,500. 2,000. And it takes a little while, you know, for it to do its measurement and bring the RPM up. I'm going to hit continue. Release the accelerator pedal and press continue. Turn ignition off. Okay, turn the ignition off and all electrical appliances. And it shows charging normal. The ripple is 8 millivolts, and you can take a look at the graph that it did. That's showing you what the ripple looks like. And what it does is it takes an average of the ripple. So you can see there's a couple spikes here that's around 16 millivolts, a little higher. But for the most part, most of it is you know, down relatively low. And the average is 8 millivolts, which is good. And then your no load voltage was 14.3. Your loaded voltage is 14.38. Now, if you wanted to do a report and print it off, you hit report, and it gives you a nice layout of everything that we just went through. And if you put the vehicle information in, you'll have that down here. Shop name, technician. So I'm going to hit the back button up here and get back to that, and we're going to hit done. Now, we'll go ahead and do an in-vehicle or out-of-vehicle test. Now, even though the battery is actually in the vehicle, when you do an out-of-vehicle test, 12 volts, this is an AGM, cold cranking amps. Let me go ahead and put in 710. And we'll just do, this doesn't take long because it's not going to do anything else. Oh, this will do a 12 or a 6 volt battery. start test. It'll go through and do its thing. So if you had this out on the bench, you know, say it just come off the charger and you're wanting to see if it shows good, then it goes through and tells you the battery's either good or bad. And of course, you notice you don't have your charging system or your starter test. And then you can do a report if you want to, but basically the same stuff. Okay, so we're going to get out of this. So we're done with this tester. Very impressed. I'm very impressed with the speed and the thoroughness of how this tests the starter, the alternator, and the battery. So very impressed with this tester. So now, just to check, what I want to do is see if the Topdon ArtiBattery101 shows pretty much the same information that we just got finished seeing here. So I'm going to set the camera up and get this battery tester hooked up, and we're going to give it a shot. So let me get done. Okay, we got this Topdon battery tester hooked up. I don't know if it's going to be better. That'll work, because I want you to see me hit the buttons. Not that that's real important, but so I'm going to hit OK. Battery test. This says AGM, cold cranking amps. This is 710. Testing the battery. So let's see what information it gives us compared to the Autel. Okay, healthy 91%. The measured cold cranking amps was 678. Charge rates 82%. 12.49 volts. Now this is giving us the internal resistance, which is 3.65 milliohms. And then of course 710 is what I entered for the cold cranking amps, and it's showing good battery. So that is pretty good. That's pretty close to what the Autel told us. Now you got to remember, the Autel, this vehicle set for about 15 minutes before I did the Autel, so that did probably skew the readings a little bit, the measurements. You know, and of course this test, I just ran the engine, had it up to 2,000 RPM a couple times, so you know the battery is got a fresh kind of a top charge. So let's go ahead and hit OK. We're going to do cranking test. Start engine. Okay, so it took just under a second, about 905 milliseconds. 11.10 volts is what it dropped to, and it's showing good for that test. So now we're going to do charging test. Okay, please start the engine, press OK to continue. We got a nice ripple test. Hopefully you're able to see that. Increase RPM to 2500 and keep it for 5 seconds. Press OK to continue. Okay, so there we go. We got a loaded test of 14.32 and an unloaded test of 14.38. So, and a ripple of 11 millivolts. I think on the Autel we had about, what, 8 millivolts. Now the Autel said between 2,000 and 3,000, and I was closer to 2,000 RPM whenever I was bringing the RPMs up. This one at 2,500, and I did bring it up to 2,500, so that's going to make a little bit of a difference there on your ripple. But 11 millivolts and 8 millivolts is still really close. So the Topdon and that Autel showed pretty much the same reading, so that kind of makes you feel confident that both these tools came back with the same information. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the Centek Harbor Freight battery tester. See how it compares to both of these. So let me get it hooked up for you. Okay, so this is the Centek Harbor Freight battery analyzer, and all it does is checks the battery. And if you remember me talking about how pliable the cables were on the Autel, these are nice and rigid. So like I say, it's kind of cool this morning or this evening, and messing with these cables, you can't lay the tool down really good because the cables move it around. So got it hooked up to the battery. You're going to hit the power button. It goes through a little testing deal. I'm going to hit OK to that. It's wanting the cold cranking amps, and we had 710, so that should be good there. And it's doing its thing. Okay, so it's showing battery's good up here, showing 12.81 volts, very good voltage. Of course, the engine, I just killed the engine, so it should be about as high as what it is showing. And we got about 0.54 milliohm. So, and that, I believe, is about all this thing does. Yeah, that's it. Now, this battery analyzer is a Harbor Freight unit, so I mean it's pretty you know, accessible. The other two you can get off Amazon, and I'll put a link to both those if you're interested. Now, before I sign off here, I just remembered at the very start of this, I said that we would do the test again with the Autel, and we'll use the 885 cranking amp value instead of the cold cranking amp. So let's see what it does. And just to show you how nice it is to have these bigger clamps. So here's the positive. I mean, that easy to get this thing hooked up. Okay, so and all I'm going to do with this is just the battery test. I don't care about the alternator or the starter. So we're going to do in vehicle. It is AGM. We're going to do cranking amps. And what I say, 885, right? Start. Check, check, check. Start. State of health is good. State of charge is 80%. Voltage 12.67. Measured capacity 834 cranking amps. Inputted capacity is 885. So that coincides with roughly, you know, the measured capacity is probably going to be, especially on almost a 3-year-old battery, is going to be lower than what it was when it was new. So it's showing about the same proportional capacity loss as it did whenever I used cold cranking amps. So you could use either one. If your battery does not have a cold cranking amp that's visible, but you see a cranking amp value, use that. If you see the cold cranking amp, use that. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to show here. This was a comparison between these three battery testers. And yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this Autel tester. So if you have an Autel scan tool and you want to utilize this battery test feature, get you this BT506 battery tester by Autel. You guys take care.